I mean, she's not a nobody. Her resume is incredibly impressive. Like, when you read it, you find a lot of like first female driver, first Saudi Arabian driver. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Racing Show here at RacePlazaMedia. This month, we've been covering a lot of different things about Formula One, the road to Formula One, covering all the different junior series. We've played F1 bingo, we've talked about the different liveries, we've talked about F1 memes, yada, yada, yada. We've been talking a lot about F1, but there's one thing that we haven't covered yet, and that is the F1 Academy. I'm sure you've heard of it. I know I've heard a lot of chatting about it, but I honestly didn't quite know what it was about. I know it was created with female drivers in mind, but that was really the extent of what I knew what was happening with it. So I'm very curious about it. So I decided to take a little bit of a dive into it to find out everything I thought was interesting that I wanted to share with you about the F1 Academy. Now, before you get upset about women in motorsport or anything of that sort, I want to point out one important thing right off the bat. Susie Wolff, who you probably know, she's a famous racer herself. She's been a team leader. She is married to Toto Wolff, and she has had an amazing career in motorsport, especially considering that she is a woman in motorsport. She talked about all the different hurdles and obstacles, of course, that she had to face. However, she was given opportunity, and this is exactly what the F1 Academy is about. It's not about segregation. It's not about separating the women drivers from the men. No, the idea is to bring them together to create more equal opportunities to the women to be able to follow the same footsteps as the men, to be able to race in the same categories as the men. And so, without further ado, let's get into it. As per usual, we're going to cover what, when, where, and anything else that I came across that I thought was interesting to you and to me. So what is the F1 Academy? The F1 Academy is also a single make championship series. It was founded in 2023. So this year, 2024, it is their sophomore season. The idea behind it is to develop and prepare female drivers for the road to F1. It has been designed with the idea to create and give female drivers the opportunity to have more track time, to have more racing and simulator time, as well as support them with their mental, physical, and technical preparations as needed for this big journey that they're embarking on. The F1 Academy has 5 teams that are part of it that were chosen based on their pedigree in the other junior categories leading to F1. So they are established in F2 and F3, which is the goal for the women of the F1 Academy to graduate into once they complete their successful season or seasons in the F1 Academy. Those teams are Art Grand Prix, Campus Racing, MP Motorsport, Prema Racing, and Rodon Carlin. Each team has 3 cars, meaning each team has 3 drivers. And in 2024, all 10 F1 teams sponsor 1 driver in the F1 Academy, meaning 10 of the drivers are partnered up with an F1 team, and the remaining 5 drivers have other supporters or sponsors. As mentioned, the F1 Academy is not only created for the drivers, but it's also created to provide opportunities for women in other areas of motorsports. After just the first season of the F1 Academy, they were able to bring on engineers in training and also mechanics to provide opportunities for women in all areas of motorsport. When is the F1 Academy happening? F1 Academy happens during 7 rounds. Each round has 3 races, so we have a total of 21 races in one F1 Academy season. And those races happen during the same season as F1 at 7 of those tracks. Similar to F1, those race weekends also start usually from Friday through Sunday, with different practice qualifying sessions, and then of course the 3 races per weekend. Where is the F1 Academy racing? So as mentioned, they follow along the F1 calendar, so they will be at 7 of the F1 calendar stops this season in 2024, starting off in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, March 7th through 9th, and their final race will be also in Abu Dhabi in December. In addition to those 2 races, they will also be in Miami, Qatar, Zandvoort, Barcelona, and Singapore. That means the calendar spans 3 continents in 2024, covering not only street tracks, but also the traditional race tracks. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the actual racing format for the F1 Academy. As mentioned, their race weekend also lasts from Friday through Sunday. Typically, on Fridays, we have 2 practice sessions of 40 minutes each, as well as both qualifying sessions of 15 minutes each. The first qualifying session will determine the starting grid for race 1, and by reversing the top 8 drivers of that qualifying session, we have the starting grid for race 2. Then qualifying session 2 will determine the starting grid for race 3. Also important to note is that the top racer for qualifying session 1 and qualifying session 2, so the pole sitter for race 1 and 3, will earn additional 2 points for starting in pole. Then on Saturday, we have races 1 and 2. The first race is 30 minutes plus 1 lap, and the second race is 20 minutes plus 1 lap. Then on Sunday, we have the final race, race number 3, which follows the same format as race 1, meaning 30 minutes plus 1 lap. Race 1 and 3 are also scored the same way, meaning the top 10 drivers will be receiving points, with the first place receiving 25 points, then 18, 15, and so on. And then for race 2, only the top 8 drivers will be receiving points, with the first place getting 10 points, second place 8, and so on. As you can tell, the F1 Academy race weekends are jam-packed with races, qualifying, and practice sessions, so it is crucial for them to maximize their points, of course, since there's a lot of points up for grabs per race weekend. Let's talk about last year's winner and some notable history of women in motorsport. We can't really talk about much of the F1 Academy history since, as you know, we're only in our 2nd season of it. However, congratulations to Marta Garcia, the Spanish driver from Prema Racing. She won the inaugural season of the F1 Academy, and she is also returning for her 2nd season this year. As to the notable drivers in the history of Formula and Formula One specifically, I wanted to point out 3 women in particular. First, we have Lella Lombardi, who is the last woman to ever compete at an actual F1 Grand Prix, which was in 1976 at the Austria Grand Prix. She placed 12th. So think about that. We haven't had a woman racing in the F1 category of motorsport since 1976. In 2014, Susie Wolff was the last female to drive an F1 vehicle during a Grand Prix weekend. She drove a car during 2 of the practice sessions at the British and the German Grand Prix 10 years ago. And before that, the other last female was Giovanna Amati in 1992. And as mentioned previously, Susie doesn't anticipate a female official F1 driver to happen within probably 8 to 10 years. I mean, it makes sense because the F1 Academy it doesn't go from F1 Academy to F1. This is the very early stage of the F1 road. Ideally, female drivers will start in the F1 Academy after having already a career in karting. Then they would go to F3, F2, and F1. So there's a lot of driving that needs to happen before we will have the first female driver in F1 in a long time. As per usual, I also wanted to cover how can you participate in the F1 Academy. You need to be a woman under the age of 25 to participate in the F1 Academy. You have to be at least 16 years of age to participate in your first race event of that season. And you're only allowed to participate in 2 seasons of the F1 Academy. In addition, all drivers participating in the F1 Academy need an FIA international license grade B, C, or D. Let's talk about what is new this year for the 2024 F1 Academy. So this year, there's 2 main things that are brand new to the F1 Academy. First of all, the top 5 drivers at the end of the 2024 season will be receiving FIA Super License points. The overall driver champion winner will be receiving 10 points. Second place will be receiving 7 points. third 5, 4, 3, and 5, 1 point. In addition to the FIA Super License points, this year brand new is also the wild card entry, meaning during select races during the F1 Academy year, local talented young female drivers will be invited to participate in a number of events, but one driver specifically will be invited to actually participate in a race. So they will be supported by Prema Racing. So in addition to Prema's typical 3-driver lineup, they will also host the additional local driver, providing them with a car, with support, training to get them ready to participate in the race. And the wildcard entry will also be receiving points towards the overall driver standing. For the first race at the Jeddah track in Saudi Arabia, local driver Rima Jafari will be the first wildcard entry of 2024. Now, I looked up Rima, and I mean, she's not a nobody. Her resume is incredibly impressive. Like, when you read it, you'll find a lot of like first female driver, first Saudi Arabian driver. So let me give you guys a couple quick highlights of her very impressive resume. So in 2018, she became the first female Saudi Arabian driver to be a race car driver, period. Then she became the first female driver, of course, to drive in an international race in her home country. She also placed second at the 2022 Dubai 24-hour race. She started her own racing team to support racing and future race car drivers, not only female, but also male, in her home country of Saudi Arabia. And her new team has also already been successful. So I'm very excited to follow Rima at her wildcard entry, and then of course also watch all the other women participate this entire F1 Academy season. And I think it will be wise to keep an eye on the wildcard entries, because I'm sure this will not be the only time we will come across those drivers. Lastly, I want to talk to you guys about 2 additional programs that the F1 Academy has. So not only do they have their own championship series, but during those race weekends, they engage with the local community, with the female drivers in that community, support them, to give them information about what they can do to take the next step in their racing career. But they also have the Champions of the Future Academy, which is a karting championship, a mixed gender karting championship. It starts at the age of 8, going all the way to 16. There's 3 different categories, and in those 3 different categories, F1 Academy supports specific drivers who show promise for the future, and the top 3 female drivers in the senior category will be invited to an F1 Academy test to hopefully give them opportunity to join one of those teams in the future. Now, this was a lot of information that I shared with you guys. I tried to keep it as concise as possible, just for both of us to have a little bit more of an inkling what the F1 Academy is all about. I'm very excited about this project in general, especially with the notion that is there to create opportunities. We want women to be involved in motorsport. I mean, I love motorsports, and I mean, it can be tough as a female fan because not everybody thinks that there's a place for women in motorsports. I completely disagree. I think it's such a fascinating sport from as a fan perspective, but also as a career perspective for women, not just in the typical female categories of accounting and PR. There's so much more women can do, and I'm all for it. So I'm glad that there's the F1 Academy out there to support women in all aspects of motorsport. I hope this video intrigued you a little bit more to look into it, to follow the F1 Academy calendar. I know I will definitely do that. I've been hearing mixed information that apparently it might be streaming on the F1 TV app for people to follow. I haven't received any clarifications on the F1 Academy website. There's no information on it. I know they post some of the races on the YouTube channel of F1, so you'll be able to watch those there. But I definitely hope that there will be a lot more broadcasting of the F1 Academy this year, because I think it's definitely something for people to watch. And especially moving forward, I'm sure we will be able to see these women have successful careers in motorsports, and hopefully one day we will have a female driver in F1. And that just leaves me with one last thing to say to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe, and as per usual, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.